What's going on, everybody? My name is Tyler, and today is day number 5 of my 32 straight days of NFL team previews ahead of the 2020 NFL season. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Carolina Panthers, who last year went 5-11 and had the worst record in the entire NFC South. And I will be honest, I don't expect this season to be much better, not solely because of their schedule, although I do think it is the toughest schedule in the NFC, but also just because of their roster as a whole. Despite having the best running back in football in Christian McCaffrey and some really nice wide receivers in DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, and Robbie Anderson, the latter who they signed in free agency, there's some definite question marks. They signed Teddy Bridgewater in free agency as well to be their starting quarterback, and my main question with him is he going to be better than Cam Newton? I mean, Newton, although the injuries hindered him the latter couple of years during his tenure in Carolina, he was phenomenal. He was a rushing threat like no one has ever seen before at the quarterback position. He could throw the ball really well. He was a former MVP back in 2015. Yeah, 2015. Had to get the facts right. And just overall, the presence and swagger that he had on that team is just something that I don't know if Bridgewater has, especially since he has not been the starter entering opening day since 2015 when he was still in the Minnesota Vikings. The Panthers also have a first-year head coach in Matt Rhule, who, with the craziness of this offseason, is at a significant disadvantage given that there weren't any OTAs, there weren't any mini camps, there wasn't any rookie camps. Training camps have already started, but that's not a lot of time for a new head coach to get acclimated to a new team, especially when you have a new quarterback, it's a new system. Everything is crazy. On the defensive side, outside of Brian Burns, who has performed well so far in his young career, there are a lot of concerns. They need to replace James Bradberry, who went to the Giants in free agency, and then Luke Kuechly retired suddenly in the offseason at the young age of 20, I believe he was 28 or 29. And among other guys on that side of the ball, I don't know who's going to fill in those spots. So it'll be interesting to see what they do for that. Looking at the Panthers schedule, like I said, it's the toughest schedule in the entire NFC in my opinion. They go week 1 at versus Las Vegas. That should be a win, honestly, but still, the Raiders project to be a tougher team. Then they go on the road to Tampa Bay, on the road to LA for the Chargers. They play Arizona week 4, at Atlanta week 5, at New Orleans week 6, at Atlanta again, at Chicago versus Chicago week 6, at New Orleans week 7, at home against Atlanta week 8, week 9 at Kansas City, week 10 versus Tampa Bay. That stretch from week 7 to week 10, that's just going to be a gauntlet. Panthers fans, you're not going to want to enjoy watching those games in terms of if you want to see your team win. You'll get to see some great talent on the opponent's side of the field with guys like Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, Patrick Mahomes, just at the quarterback position alone. But the Panthers, that stretch right there, I would not be surprised if they lose by a combined total of 100 points in those 4 games. Then they round out their final 2 weeks before their bye week in weeks 11 and 12. They play at home versus Detroit. Okay, an easier game. Week 12 at Minnesota. Bye week 13. So that's the other thing, too. You have a lot of games stacked up in the first 12 weeks of the season, and then you get your bye week. So it's going to be injury risks in that later weeks 9, 10, 11, 12 range. Guys just getting tired. You never know with how the NFL works and all the contact and whatnot, especially with the craziness with the coronavirus this year. There could be some issues for this Panthers roster from a health standpoint in that latter half prior to their bye. After the bye week, though, they only have 4 games. At home versus the Broncos, on the road against Green Bay, on the road against Washington blank, because who knows what their name is, and at home versus New Orleans to close out the season, week 17. It's just an overall gauntlet for them. I have the Panthers finishing at 4-12, and I honestly think that's a little generous. I have them winning against Chicago. I have them beating Detroit. I have them beating Las Vegas, and I have them beating Washington. And I'm not even 100% sure. They probably should lose to the Bears. I just figured, why not be nice? I think the Panthers, this Teddy Bridgewater signing is a holdover. I think they are going to try to get a higher pick, maybe draft a Trevor Lawrence, maybe draft a Justin Fields, or one of the maybe some other top flight quarterback emergers like Joe Burrow did in this past college football season. It's just overall for the Panthers, it's really not a favorable matchup for them. Like, the only games I could really see them winning are Washington, Detroit, and what was the last one? Oh, Las Vegas. But those teams project to be really, really bad. And they are probably not in the position to make the playoffs. Being that they are in the NFC South, I think that is the ultimate killer, because usually you can get 1 to 2 wins at least in your own division. I don't see them winning any games against their division, especially given where their division games are placed. It's just in not favorable spots. Like, they have that stretch from week 5 to week 10 where they play Atlanta twice, Tampa Bay, and New Orleans. And I'll go along with Kansas City and Chicago. So it's overall tough. I think Bridgewater is going to succumb to the pressure. I don't think he's going to thrive. I think this is just a time to groom, whether it be Will Grier, who's currently on the roster, or prepare for, like I mentioned, a top pick quarterback coming in to save this franchise. And I feel bad for Christian McCaffrey, a guy who has all this talent in the world, but really won't be able to let it shine in terms of wins because his team is not good. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see the Panthers thrive. I would love to see them compete in a really tough division, arguably the toughest in all of football on paper in the NFC South. I just don't see it happening. If I am going to go to a Panthers game this season, or if I'm watching Panthers football, it's going to be strictly to watch McCaffrey play because he is such a dynamic football player. But here are the 5 games I think Panthers fans are going to want to keep an eye on. Week 4 against the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals, they're a team on the up and up, but who knows? Maybe the Panthers could pull one out here, although I don't see it happening. They could pull a fast one, and that could be a telltale sign of maybe this team is actually a little bit further along than they thought. Week 6 at the Bears. Against the Bears. Like I mentioned, this is a game that I have the Panthers winning, but with the Bears' craziness on their roster, who really knows about that? This game, I think, will be uber competitive. And then week 7 and week 10 against the Saints and the Buccaneers. Week 7's on the road. Week 10 is at home. I think just 2 games against division foes that will be nice litmus tests for the Panthers to see where they stack up right now and for the future. Because look at those teams. Week 7, Drew Brees. Week 10, Tom Brady. Both of those guys are over 40. They're on their way out. But if the Panthers can give those teams a run for their money, they're probably much further along than where people think. And finally, week 14, at home against the Broncos, another team similar to the Cardinals that are on the up and up that might view this game as a easy game against Carolina. The Panthers could steal one possibly, although I don't see it necessarily happening. One final point of note before I wrap this up. The Panthers in the 2020 draft drafted entirely defense. They started with Derek Brown, who I love at defensive tackle. I think he's going to be a star. But after that, it's really a lot of question marks. So this year for them is going to be huge in developing all their young players on the defensive side of the ball and continuing developing guys like Christian McCaffrey, like DJ Moore, like Curtis Samuel on the offensive side, and just building for the future. This is not going to be a 1 to 2 year rebuild. This is going to be a 3 to 5 year rebuild, if not more. So Panthers fans just got to be patient. Everything will work out. Do not worry. Matt Rhule, we saw what he did at Baylor, turning that program around. He could do the same thing here at Carolina. They just need patience. And I think owner David Tepper will do that. Overall, though, where do you think the Carolina Panthers will finish this season? Do you think they'll finish better than 4-12 like I have them? Or will it just be another bad year in the building for the future? Let me know down below in the comment section. Thank y'all so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow with the Chicago Bears.